Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/itslayspodcast and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/itslayspodcast. And let's get into the episode.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Stop the prime time, bitch!
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
It's Xylia.
And this is the suitcase that got busted open in security in an airport, Mike.
And we are back with another one, not just any one, but our 1 year anniversary.
Yay!
You can tell by that lackluster excitement that it is late and we are tired. Yeah, 1 year. Who would have thought we'd be here on this journey 1 year later and still going strong? We're probably going to, be here in 40 years. Who knows?
I love your fucking optimism. I love it. The ambition to even be alive in 40 years is to be commended.
I figure by then technology will have improved where we can just basically beam our voices into people's heads and probably by force. So people will be forced to listen to us.
I'm into it.
I'm into it too. And then they'll listen to these episodes and just be like, what the hell am I listening to?
I can't wait till our kids randomly find this online and then listen to them. Listen to the April Fool's Day episode.
That's right.
The uncut version.
I feel like it would be on BET late at night. Something you'd watch.
Would it?
I don't know. Isn't that when they play
Showcase.
I think they play unedited music videos there. I guess we don't have enough strippers or anything in our podcasts.
What?
This tangent went far left quickly, very quickly.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions for us for this 1 year party, shall we say, soiree.
My god, if this is a party, well...
This is a lame party.
It's not a good one.
I know, I don't think any of us have a drink, so we didn't plan this out
to
very
the party,
well.
no, we didn't, but it is what it is. We'll make do, we always do.
That's right, we'll make up for it. Whatever, weird pick Mike picks.
Oh, no, I have a plan. It will be a belated 1 year soiree involving my pick, and we 100%, all three of us, will be recording it wasted because it's probably the only way that we're going to be able to get through it.
Oh, now I'm just...
And I mean that in the best possible way. It necessitates inebriation of any variety.
Now I'm just really excited. Just like you guys, we'll find out at the end of the episode what it is that we're going to be watching. So, here's my first question of the evening. I want to know, we've got, 22, how many episodes in the bag are we at now? Who knows? You gotta be at least 25 with the bonus one.
Yeah, don't even get me started on how
Yeah, we're not gonna get Xylia started
numbers off
on how angry the numbering makes her.
20-something.
20-something. I want to know what's been your favorite thing to review so far. What's your favorite review we've done?
You know what? I was rinsing out bowls today, and I was like, I bet that's going to be Rowan's question.
I have many questions.
Oh, okay.
This is one of the questions.
I love the specificity of rinsing out bowls. I honestly thought it was going somewhere with the bowls, and I was like, that's just what I was doing.
Nope. Yep.
So we'll start with Xylia.
What was my favorite thing?
And it doesn't have to be like something you rated high. Just like, what was a episode that is memorable for you or unmemorable because you can't remember it?
Well, if I can't remember, I won't be saying it, so... I am the quality control person, so I do go back and listen to all the episodes. What was my most memorable? I really enjoyed our Lace Crater episode.
That was a fond one. I enjoyed doing that one.
I mean, April Fool's Day, I think we always go back to that. I don't really remember recording that, but it made for a interesting episode.
That was definitely, I feel most people's most interesting one.
I think my all-time favorite one may have been My Bloody Valentine, though.
That was a very good one. I was thinking that myself, actually.
Yeah.
I like that answer. I think that movie was so fun when we watched it, and it was just full of East Coast nostalgia for everybody. That's a good pick. I like that one. How about you, Mike?
Well, I can't pick one particular one, and of course they're like your babies, you know. Even when they have problems and you hate them, you still love them.
Or at least you have to say that.
You have to say that, exactly. There's a couple that I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna wash my hands of, but probably my 3 top favorite. One is Alien, partially because, you know, it's always fun talking about that movie, and it was really nice to have, you know, our dear friend, the brilliant author / thinker, Mr. Bradley Dunn on. So that was nice. It was nice. That was, I think, our first episode having somebody else on.
Yes, it was.
Because that was before our beautiful patron Cecily joined us. So that was one of my top 3. I really like the dynamic, and you know, he always has a lot of really interesting things to say about art and film. And then my other 2, of course, one of them is no surprise. Everybody who's ever listened to this knows that I absolutely loved our April Fool's Day episode. It really shouldn't have even existed. Who makes a podcast where everybody just gets hammered and like dissects this fucking cheesy ass comedy slasher movie from the late 80s for like 3.5 hours, but we did it, and I don't know, it was fun. You know, I think it shows how good of a time we have, like, when we're all on our game. So there's that. And then my other favorite one is probably Witchboard 2.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
It was a fun episode to record. It's a fun movie to watch. It's, you know, a cheeseball kind of like cult classic, and just everything about it was fun, and I have good memories of it, and it makes me feel nice.
I really like those picks. You guys are so insightful and thoughtful on these answers.
I just remember on April Fool's Day, I don't know why I always just remember this one thing I said, but I was talking about when the couple were walking back from the boathouse place where the dead body was, and I was like, these virgin people, and I don't know why I was like saying they're virgins. I just thought it was like a random thing for me to add in, but
no love for the virgins.
And considering
it's not about
it
that.
was implied that everybody was fucking like animals, you know.
I just like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, that whole episode was very, there's many quotables.
Oh, there's many quotables. There's lots of assumptions. There was lots of biases coming out, tangents being explored. It was like an episode-long, like, psychotherapy session.
Yeah.
But like an unintentional one that it's like a digging and digging.
There's also a lot of talk about doilies.
Yes. And you guys, it got edited out, but apparently I just completely passed out in my chair and fell on the floor. And Rowan the whole week was like, I fucking have to edit this whole thing. He was pissed.
If only I knew how good. I remember when it was done, though. I was like, what a good episode. And
then Rowan basically told me it was a good episode at my cost.
The editing process was, not fun. I like those picks. For my picks, I also really enjoyed the Alien one, simply because, as I've always talked about in the podcast, like that whole franchise is so important to me as a movie and horror lover. I remember how excited I was that like Xylia really liked it, and I don't think I'd ever until that moment kind of shared Alien with her, and I just remember how much she liked it. And like Mike already said, we had Brad on. It was our first guest. We loved having Brad. I'm sure we'll see him again in the new year, and, you know, we'll see some more guests. Because it's always fun to ruin people's days by throwing them into our shenanigans. Witchboard 2 is definitely up there for me as well. I just remember, I don't think I was prepared for how, like, schlocky it was, but yet amazing. I think that was the first one that I watched that I kind of like, I almost half watched Xylia while we watched it, because I was like, this kind of movie may make Xylia leave this podcast.
But that's what was so good about it, right? Like,
yeah, well, but then it was like, I remember when we finished in Xylia, like, we had a really fun time watching it. Like, we were like, this is fun. I was like, Xylia, come to the dark side. You don't need art house horror.
Join the Schlock Brigade, please.
The Schlock Brigade. And then I'll pick something a little different. I also really enjoyed, even though we were very tired, I remember when we did it, because we had recorded 2 episodes in the night, I really enjoyed our Evil Dead episode. And, you know, one of the reasons isn't just the recording, but, I mean, we got to celebrate Patreon, and that was our first Patreon pick, and, you know, we've got one coming up soon, and, you know, it's always fun to know that people are enjoying what they're hearing and get to review what they want to hear us review.
I really wish we weren't so tired for that one. Probably mostly because it was a Patreon one, and I feel like, yeah, like we were really tired at that point. We'd been recording like...
Yeah, we were doing a lot.
We were recording a lot.
We didn't really have our...
Yeah.
We didn't really have our schedules down like we do now.
And I think we had been recording like several times within that 2-week period.
Yeah, well, we were...
Like
when we first started, and, you know, this, I guess, is kind of like a sneak peek into the behind the scenes. Like, I know when we first started, we basically were recording every at least once a week.
Sometimes twice a week.
Twice a week, because we were basically trying to do bonus episodes every month, and we were essentially releasing 3 out of 4 weeks a month. Yeah, it just got too hectic, and
and there was more of a time difference for us then too, so it was a bit harder.
And
even when it was getting late for you guys, I was already over the edge.
Yeah. Mike, like, we knew if we kept going, like, Mike would be on the news and he would have, like, murdered innocent families and stuff. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yes, and then 5 years from now, they'd make a movie out of it, and you'd be talking about it on the podcast with somebody who wasn't in jail. Going, remember when that asshole used to be on this program?
But yeah, so those are my picks.
Can I add another thing I found really fun?
You can.
It's not about the movie, but I just remember in the summertime, the summer past, when we were living in Toronto and we had to record, it was like loud outside, so we had to close every window and door, and it was like legitimately 60 degrees in our apartment with the humidity.
Oh, I remember you guys literally sweating, like dripping down your face. I felt so bad for you, and then I was there with a sweater on because it was 5 degrees. I've got my cardigan on and some pants. Like, it's fine here.
Watching you over Skype, it made me even hotter. And so that's like something I'll like always kind of like, I guess it wasn't fun at the time. It was incredibly uncomfortable, but I'll look back on and be like, that's hot.
I totally forgot about how hot that was till you just brought it up. Now the memories are coming back in hot flashes.
Toronto summers are not fun.
Yeah, because, you know, and like, anyone that's listening that doesn't, like, really know the recording process, like, when we record, like, everything needs to be quiet, and we had an air conditioner because it was so hot, and you had to shut it off. You couldn't have a fan on.
The windows and doors were all closed.
Our neighborhood was way too loud, so yeah, everything had to be shut, and it was just like a sauna.
And we had floor-to-ceiling windows, and it was just like, it was like a greenhouse. And it was already like basically almost 50 degrees with the the humidity just outside.
So my part 2, and we've kind of somewhat answered some of this, but we talked about some of our favorite episodes. I want to talk about some of like our favorite moments while recording and you know, good or bad, memorable things. I think I can speak for everyone. I mean, I know the top of my list, as we said, it's always the infamous April Fool's Day of Xylia just going on about doilies and...
Well, like, they don't know how it got to that point. I guess I like really don't drink ever, and my all-time favorite drink, Mike and Rowan will attest to this, is a Caesar.
Absolutely.
Like I love
and she
Caesars.
makes an amazing Caesar. I have the recipe for it forever saved on my phone from one of your last weekends here before you moved.
Yes, it's delicious, and I'm like, I have high blood pressure,
a
so
spicy one too. It is.
I do not drink a Caesar unless it's super spicy.
Unless you're gonna like have the shits for the next 2 days,
yeah.
It's not worth drinking.
Exactly. My body's immune to that now.
Yeah.
I don't, it's just, yeah. So anyway, I have high blood pressure, so I don't really drink Caesars very often because they're literally nothing but sodium. But this evening, I was just like, yeah, I'm going to have a Caesar. And so I like poured one and I'm sitting down and Rowan's like, you know, you have to like finish that before we record because I'm not editing it out. And so, oh, damn. So then it somehow turned into me like chugging 3 double Caesars within like 15 minutes before we started recording. And then it all just went downhill from there.
Very downhill.
Very downhill.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna say that was uphill because it was a beautiful height in that month for me.
All I remember, because it's been a while since I've listened to that episode, is I remember what was the whole thing about like the triad?
Because I was like going off and you're like, stop going on a triad, and I'm like, I'm in a triad now. he meant tirade.
Yeah,
triad.
I think you might.
You had most of the letters there, so God love you.
If you've listened to that episode recently and you're like, I remember hearing that, there's a good chance I may have edited it
I
out.
think you edited it.
But that was really kind of at the beginning of listeners realizing that Rowan murders not just names but sayings and really anything that has to do with the English language.
My favorite thing too is when I'm saying something that Rowan doesn't like, or if I'm doing something he doesn't like, we sit across from each other at a little table and the look he gives me, you guys, I wish you guys could like see everything going on behind the recording.
It's a very, very dirty look.
It's a super dirty.
I do have lots of screenshots of our Skypes, though, so maybe one day I'll release them.
You do.
Oh,
they're all
my
super
blackmail
embarrassing.
material.
Yeah, really.
That would be a great one.
I have a lot of favorite moments, but honestly, I feel like one of them, it's more like a favorite recurring moment, is our constant cycle through ideas for side podcasts. Because we can't contain our passions to this one. We really can't.
It's true.
I feel like maybe sometime what we're gonna have to do is like on the Facebook or Instagram is we're gonna make like mock ads for side podcasts that we've named.
I think we should do like side mini pod. Like
we have really
podcasts.
talked about because I'm not not shameless plugging here, but a reason that it's definitely worth starting this year signing up for Patreon is not just because you can pick a movie, but you're going to get bonus episodes on Patreon this year. We have talked pretty heavily about making them some of the side casts. So I feel like you're definitely probably going to get an OC episode.
So if you like the OC, if you like cults, if you like architecture, my God, I would have to go through every podcast episode and listen to what all we've talked about.
Yeah, you will. You'll get. All
my
those
God,
things.
they're all ripe for
ripe for the picking.
Yeah, they'd be sick.
It's
they'd
because
be
of our minds.
awesome
Our minds.
podcast. Yeah.
I did want to bring up that a moment I love, like Mike, that is reoccurring is he's nothing but thorough, making sure that our listeners and the world know that I mispronounce everyone's name. Never just letting it slide.
I'm never gonna let it slide. I'm not.
I enjoy the embarrassment fully. That sounds sarcastic, but I enjoy it.
I'm not gonna lie, every episode, I kind of, if I'm watching the movie or thinking about it or making notes, I always wonder what it is that you are going to completely desecrate in this episode. Whose name is it going to be? What place name? It's always, it's usually an actor's name, but you like to throw curveballs at us every now and then, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to butchering someone's name in this episode.
I have another. It's like podcast related.
Yeah.
When we were living in Toronto and we crossed the border into Detroit. Well, the first time we crossed the border, it wasn't quite into Detroit, but into Michigan. And basically, the border agent wasn't overly happy. A, that we were going for one day at a time. And B, because Rowan told him we were fucking going for a podcast. And then he was like not impressed. And he was like, what kind of podcast? And then you told him, and he's like, can you like actually go to these like sets, because like that's when we're going to the It Follows locations. And he was like really questioning if he wanted to let us into the country.
He's like, I don't want these hooligans in here.
That was literally a trip of nothing but like just horrible experiences at the border.
It was our own horror movie.
It was. Seeing the places were like the locations was cool. And Clark's Ice Cream, my god. If anybody ever goes to Detroit, go to Clark's Ice Cream. You will not be disappointed.
This is very true. Delicious ice cream.
They do a blueberry muffin. All their ice cream's homemade, Mike. And where they worked at in Follow, it's all friggin' homemade, and like
they should really.
We went there 2 nights in a row.
They should really just sponsor us.
I wish. And yeah, one was a homemade blueberry muffin ice cream, and it was like ridiculous. Yeah.
Sidecast number 24 will just be Xylia talking about flavors of ice cream.
No, Sidecast 24. Me talking about food places in movies.
That you can actually frequent in real life.
Exactly.
I like that one. I really like that one. So, another thing I thought we'd talk about in this celebration is looking to the future. I want to know what are some of your hopes and dreams? Is there any like films that we didn't get to that you hope we get to in the future, or just where do you see this in another year?
In another year, I see Colton having received his thank you card.
Insert looks of judgment at Xylia.
Why does this fall on me?
You're the goddamn artist.
Yeah, okay. Ask other people that got their cards. I'm definitely not.
You can't rush art, man. You can't rush art.
It's true. I gotta wait for the feeling to be right.
Just like fart, you can't rush art, because you might shart.
Oh my god. In terms of movies, I mean, there's lots that I want to review, but that's gonna be a secret.
Oh.
For the upcoming year.
Well, I will say, I love when we do our Stone Cold Iconic Classics, obviously, because there's so much to talk about, and some of them, most of us are fairly familiar with, so, we can kind of speak a little bit more at length. But I can't wait to do more random off-the-wall picks. That's all I'm going to say for the next year. That's kind of my goal, and I will be starting it with my next pick, just throwing that out there.
I think we each have our own personality in terms of the movies we pick.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go down through the
really
list and say which ones are, say, for example, X picks.
Yeah, or Mike.
Yeah.
Or Rowan. It's interesting.
Yeah, all you really have to do is, if you're looking at the list of stuff we've done, if you look at the movies and you're like, oh, that one, the only thing I really know about that one is it's, kind of seems pretentious and high-end. It's definitely Xylia.
Did you see my eyes literally rolled so far back in my head that it drug my head backwards on that one?
I mean, Xylia, what have you picked? You've picked It Follows.
Okay.
The Invitation.
The Invitation was on Netflix.
Lace Crater.
Okay, Lace Crater's a fucking awesome movie.
We're not judging your movie picks.
I think it's more the aesthetic of it. I think it's all our similar aesthetic.
I definitely agree with that. I think we, as Mike said, we definitely have this very unique aesthetic. I actually was talking to someone about the podcast in real life a couple weeks ago, and I explained to them about how you could tell who picked what movie without listening. And I was like, Xylia usually picks movies that are like, we're gonna rate high, and they're like, very well done. Mike usually picks movies that we rate very well that have budgets of $50.
That's true.
And then I was like, I'm not ashamed to say, like, I always just pick like mediocre films that I know are gonna get like the bad ratings.
You pick pretty like mediocre films, or you pick like the big, like the iconics.
Ones. Not the high art ones, the iconics.
I mean, they're all have
They're
their
all
own
art.
place. Another episode that I actually really enjoyed doing was Candyman.
Oh my god, me too. I loved it.
I really liked that episode, and I love that movie, so.
But I think also that was kind of like the peak of all three of our like interest, which sometimes doesn't come across in the episodes because we're so stuck on talking about how much we loved the fucking cut glass in a lamp on the floor in one of these movies, or about the fucking 90s high-waisted pocketless mom jeans and fringed haircuts. But like that sort of was a really good example of us being into like horror films and aesthetic, but also like our interest, which again doesn't always come out with some of the movies, in like kind of like social issues and like academia and things like that had its place more in that movie than I think in a lot of other ones. No, I mean, listen, we can like incorporate academic discussions if we want to into like Slumber Party Massacre.
Anything,
but you know, that one was just, it was so ripe, and where you guys had visited recently, you know, it was just, to me, that was a nice kind of illustration of our interest in that side of like art criticism.
And I think at that point in time, like we were living in Jane and Finch in Toronto, so like our neighborhood was like, the reputation was similar, so I think like that made it like, that was very much a part of my like me and Rowan's everyday life, is like living in a neighborhood that has like a really bad reputation and blah blah blah, which like, by the way, I mean, I never felt unsafe there ever. So I love that, and I think that might be a goal for the future. I really like talking about like the sociological aspects of things. I think I've like kind of gotten out of that in terms of like, I'm still doing my master's, but I'm almost done, and I'm just like, frig, I have like, you know, I've like kind of moved away from like being so ingrained in academia, because in Toronto that's like what I was doing there. But no, I think for the future I'd like to like get more back into that.
I was gonna say too, in the future, I also had said, like, you know, I'd love to deep dive on some of the films a little more sociologically. We go in and out of that. I think we do a good mix of that. One thing I did want to bring up that I always hope for the future is I want to continue to, you know, do our part, because, you know, we can admit life gets busy. Sometimes we forget, but to, like, interact with you guys more and, you know, ask questions on Instagram and Facebook, because when we do that, people respond. And
I think one of our big things was, since we moved back home in August, like things have been really hectic and stressful, like really stressful. So I think we've kind of let that slide a little bit, but I think like we should definitely make that more of a priority.
Getting back into it, and like we said before, the future will bring more content, more different things. We're always thinking of ways that we can do stuff with the podcast. It isn't necessarily just always, you know, stuff other than just episodes and all that fun stuff. And hopefully, I feel this is going to be the year that we're going to see maybe like some t-shirts, maybe some giveaways. I think it'll be a very good year for us in the future. But we did want to talk about some questions that you guys asked. We posed the question a couple times, and I think we had 3 people respond, which is 3 more people than I would expect. I would probably ignore myself. And you know what? If you're thinking to yourself, man, I had a question, I should have asked them, you can always ask us anyway, and we'll bring it up on an episode. Or just wait till the 2-year one. Or wait till that 40-year anniversary.
40th anniversary.
We'll have Mike in a chair. It'll kind of be like the grandfather from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, I'm gonna be completely dried out.
And we just like drop blood in his mouth and stuff.
And it looks like I'm dead, but then all of a sudden, like, my tongue will start wagging and... You're like, oh, he's not actually dead. This is disgusting. I preferred him when he was a corpse.
I like that. That's like a good slogan for a sidecast. I preferred when he was a corpse. All right, so we'll start with probably what I felt was the most pressing question we got from one big dog Tim.
I knew this
in
was
Newfoundland. He needed to know immediately. His question was DMX or Ja Rule. Whose side are you on? I mean, I'm a Ja Rule man, so.
I love this. This is the most pressing question I've been asked, recently. And I find it also one of the more hard ones to answer.
Oh.
I'll answer it, Ja Rule.
I mean...
Baby, put it on me. Jeez.
I've always had a soft spot for DMX. DMX, Xylia X. But also... every single school dance growing up, they played Rough Riders Anthem. That was a fucking jam. But then, yeah, like, Ja Rule is, like, a huge part of my upbringing. But then, like, Firefest? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're both even for me.
As I'm older now, I, like, really reflect on what kind of school I went to that, like, grade 6 dances was, like, Rough Riders Anthem at least 3 times a night. Tim, I hope we've answered your question. I think Ja Rule beats it out at 2-1.
I'm half on half, so it's 2.5.
And you know what? No, let's do this properly. Ja Rule. Would we give him a nay,
oh my God.
Okay, yay, or slay? I feel like it's slay all day for Ja.
Up until 2010, it's like definitely a slay, and then after it's a nay.
What about DMX?
I mean, probably about the same, really.
By a narrow margin.
By a narrow margin. Our next question came in from the ever wonderful Jennifer Stansberry. We always appreciate a fellow patron.
We stand.
Stansberry. Oh my God, we're awful.
The It's Like podcast does not reflect the views or bad puns of Xylia Fraser.
Oh my God.
So she wanted to know, what is one movie, horror or not, that you are too embarrassed to admit you like? Oh, Jennifer, have you not listened to us enough to know we have no shame?
No shame whatsoever. No shame. Well, I'll say one that I've openly admitted. I mean, all of my close friends know that this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Maybe, like, randoms out there don't. And you know what? I'm just gonna, like, come out of the film closet and say it. Girls Just Want to Have Fun with Sarah Jessica Parker, Shannon Doherty, and Helen Hunt.
I've never heard of that.
It is literally probably one of my top 3 or 4 most watched movies of all time. Ever since I was a youngster, I saw it like on TV at like my cousin's house when I was like 7. It's just this dance movie from like the ungodly like depths of the 80s. It was like 86 or something. It's like Sarah Jessica Parker's family is, moves to, actually, I think it was Chicago. Hilariously, it was Chicago. Her dad's like a military guy and he's very strict, and she's not allowed to date or go out and do anything, and she goes to Catholic school, but she meets Helen Hunt and she loves to dance, and Helen Hunt's this like free spirit, so they become obsessed with they are obsessed with this like dance program, and they're obsessed with getting on the dance program as like featured dancers. So I guess it was kind of like, the typical 80s, like Soul Train, all those kind of shows where they just like play music and dance along to it. But oh my God, it was so cornball. It's the most 80s girly sleepover movie that ever existed. The soundtrack is spectacular. I'm obsessed with it. I always have been. I always will be. I've seen it 800 times, and I don't care who knows it, and I will openly admit it. Yep, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And you know what? They don't even use the Cyndi Lauper version of that song in it, because it was
my
it was so low budget they couldn't even get the actual version, so it was like a shitty fucking cover. Not endorsed by Cyndi Lauper. It might as well have said under the title of that movie. So that's it. That's my answer.
How about you, Xylia?
I really can't think of a movie. What was it that we're ashamed of? It's like our guilty pleasure.
Your guilty pleasures. I'm embarrassed to admit you would like.
So I really can't think of a movie like that, but Rowan recently outed me as a teen mom / 16 and pregnant fan. I also I know somebody else that watched this The Real World.
Oh God, The Real World. No, that was delicious. I could eat it with a fucking giant wooden spoon.
I don't even know if it's on anymore, but I loved The Real World. Man, when I was 20, Jersey Shore, and then they brought back Jersey Shore 2 years ago, and not gonna lie, I watched the whole season. I'm just they're the trashiest of trashy shows, and I think it's because there's this continuation on I was super trashy when I was 20, and so I already know the background of everything, and then why? It's nostalgic, and it's mindless.
Yeah, well, that's true. And like we said...
I think I will make my kids watch Teen Mom or 16 and Pregnant, because, man,
Dear Lord.
It makes you not want to be a teen mom.
Dear Lord.
Dear Lord.
Dear Lord. That will be the quote of this episode. Dear Lord. Yeah, geez, it's hard. Because like we said, I love that question.
Rowan likes Teen Mom, too.
I don't like Teen Mom.
He does. He'll be can you turn it so I can see it?
Well, if it's on, I might as well see it. Yeah. So I'm hearing it.
Sure.
Yeah, this is...
And he's what happened with this person?
Off of this subject. On this subject, but off of Teen
Has he
Mom.
seen Farrah's porn?
I don't know. Have you seen
No,
Farrah's
I
porn?
haven't.
With James Dean?
Yes. God, remember James
Have
Dean?
you?
Where did he go? No, I didn't. Even James Dean was not enough to make me watch that.
Wasn't he also in that movie that Lindsay Lohan was in, the Canyons movie?
Yes, the Paul Schrader movie. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Wasn't he accused of
sexual
didn't
assault? Bret Easton Ellis write it?
Okay, I saw a book yesterday at Kohl's by Bret Easton Ellis, and it's Bret Easton Ellis in the community and culture section,
and it was called White.
Yep.
Yeah. Brett, it turns out that he, in my personal opinion, this does not reflect the podcast or anybody associated with me. When I was younger, two of my favorite books were written by him, American Psycho and...
American Psycho?
Yeah, and The Rules of Attraction. I still love both of those books, and I just thought he was great and underrated, but now, the last 9 or 8 years, I think he's kind of gone off the deep end, and he's a bit of a whack job and kind of right wing, so yeah. I don't have time for him anymore. I will still say I still have both of those books on my shelf and I love them, but I'm done with him.
That's definitely gonna be the quote for this episode is Dear Lord, it's Breasty Ellis.
Easton Ellis.
Breast Easton Ellis. I can't even get a name when I'm making a joke right. It's my kryptonite is people's names.
Everybody my whole family would make fun of Rowan because Rowan couldn't pronounce my name until we were married for 5 years.
It's true. Sometimes I still don't say it.
Oh my God, did you stumble over it while you were reciting your vows at your wedding?
No, he called me Xylia.
Xylia.
My name's Xylia. Minor details.
You know why? You just solved that by saying X.
Yeah. Okay, what's your
Yeah,
thing?
We're really going off topic here. Yeah, like I said, I love the question, but I don't, because I feel like you shouldn't be ashamed.
Jennifer, your question.
No, but I'm saying it's hard to answer because I'm never ashamed of anything. So I've got a couple mentions. I've got one horror mention, and I'll say 2 that aren't horror. So my horror mention is, and I don't think it's really a hot take, and I think a lot of people would be like, oh, you shouldn't really be embarrassed of it. But I really enjoy the Purge spin-offs, especially the Anarchy one. I really enjoyed that one. It's absolutely terrible. It's not really a horror movie. It's basically you're watching Netflix The Punisher, but I enjoyed that movie. I feel like as someone that likes horror, you probably shouldn't like that movie because it's just like, to me, especially the first Purge, I think is a fantastic, I'm sure we'll review it sometime. Like, I think it was unique when it came out. Like, it was very well done. But I mean, the Purge is like the definition of just like, it's like Saw. It's just like money grab.
It's true.
Every time they make one of these movies, like, there's no real intricacy. I think the only time they tried to make it very intricate in terms of like messaging and stuff was the last one that came out, and
the one we saw in the theater?
Yeah, it didn't work very well. They were too busy making like a Hollywood film. So I would say that's probably on my horror list of like, I don't like to admit I like the spin-offs, but same reason anyone watches like Fast and the Furious. That's what I was trying to think of. It's just great, like mind-numbing, like I don't have to think about it. Just watching people, like, get mowed down by a machine gun, essentially. Two that I am proud, but probably embarrassed to admit I like. One, I mean, everyone knows, listening to the podcast, I'm a huge, like, comic book nerd as well. I really enjoy the Chris Evans Fantastic Four, that original movie that no one in the world liked. I thought that was super campy and I really enjoy it. Number one most embarrassing movie, I guess. Xylia will attest to my love. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
That's Rowan's favorite movie.
I probably like that movie more than I like any movie on the face of the planet.
It's not even a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie. So the last question was by our good Horror Hound Patreon subscriber, Colton, and he wanted to know, what's the podcast thoughts on Parasite?
Have you seen it?
I now am in possession of it, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet because I've been working a lot and then I had a couple rough nights. But it's obviously my number one movie to watch next.
So, I don't know about you, X. I don't mind commenting, like, no spoilers, just...
I thought it was going to be more horror-y. It, like, definitely wasn't a bad movie. I'm starting to get, like, more into the subtitle thing, and actually I saw this little thing from the guy, and it was, like, if you get past the barrier of reading, like, the couple little words at the end, at the bottom of the screen, like, you'll be exposed to so many, like, great movies. And I think you talked last episode, like, what are your kind of goals for the new year? I think, like, I want to start watching more, like foreign films, like, subtitled films.
And foreign horror is usually always, like, better. Very good.
Exactly.
World class, really.
It, like I said, it wasn't bad. It, like, I don't think for me personally, it, like, lived up to the hype.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my thoughts on it, without, like, spoiling it for Mike or anything like that, was my only real exposure other than seeing the trailer was I saw every horror podcast or any horror websites I go to, it was on the top, like, number one on lists everywhere. Yeah. I went in, I didn't know that it's more like a thriller. It's not really a horror movie. You know, Mike is not stupid enough to say, we've learned in the podcast, Rowan sets up unrealistic expectations. Yeah. So I just kind of was caught off guard. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good movie. Whether or not I think it's as crazy as everyone else thought, I know. We'll wait and see, I guess.
Well, I guess that's the thing about, like, this is a minor cultural phenomena, or before, last week it was minor, now it's much more major, but, like, with kind of, like, phenomena like that is a danger of being kind of, like, overexposed to it before you actually get a chance to watch it or listen to it or whatever. So that you're always, like, kind of running a risk of going in with heightened bars and expectations. And
yeah I had seen we were at the theater, and I can't remember what movie we saw, but we had seen the trailer for Parasite, and I was like, oh, like, that really piqued my interest. I thought it was like, what's going on here? This looks really interesting. I mean, it's huge that it won an Oscar. I think that's awesome and opens, like, a lot of doors, and I think it really, like, might open people up to, like, exploring like different movies, and I think that's never a bad thing.
I think that sums up my thoughts on it.
The actors were good. Like,
we'll make sure next episode after Mike's seen it, Colton, that Mike gives his answer.
Further. Yes, exactly.
We'll comment further. So I mean, we are celebrating the 1 year of the podcast. but we are here for a job too. We don't get paid very well, but we do have a job to do. This was Xylia's pick.
Yep.
What movie was it, Xylia?
The Guest.
2014's The Guest. Or also Adam Wingard's The Guest. A question that I'm trying to make sure I ask, because I like when we talk about it, and then I kind of fell off of it. I want to start with you, Xylia. I want everyone to talk about their first experiences with the movie. Like, have you seen it before? Maybe you could talk about why you picked it.
Yeah, I have seen it before one time. I can't remember when it was, like a year or two ago, probably. I picked it because I feel like it falls in line with my my aesthetic that generally I pick, I guess. Really, I picked it because the soundtrack's awesome.
That's an honest answer.
Yeah, like, and I remember when I watched it the first time, I really enjoyed it. You had showed it to me, and I didn't think that I was gonna, I don't know, I didn't have any expectation. I had never heard of it before. I really liked it the first time I watched it, and I had to pick a movie, so
there you go. How about you, Mike? Had you heard about this? Is this your first time seeing it?
I hadn't actually seen it before. I was familiar with it. I'd seen the trailer. I'd seen the poster numerous times. Actually, at work, we used to have a TV that had an Apple TV hooked up to it, and it would just cycle through when nobody was using it, like movie posters and stuff of, well, it was supposed to be recent movies, but it was kind of scary. It had like at least 2 or 3 years worth of movies like that were, come and gone. And one of them that did cycle through a few times, and this was years ago now, was The Guest. And of course, I adore You're Next, one of Adam Wingard's other movies. So I think this was maybe the one he did after that. So I was very psyched to see it, but for some reason, I don't think I got it in the theaters here. And then it just sort of, a lot of stuff came out, and it kind of fell off my radar for a while. So this was a good opportunity for me to actually catch up and watch it, which I'd been meaning to do for years.
I'm trying to think. So obviously my first experience with it was with Xylia, and I can't really remember what I feel like
was it on Netflix?
It was on Netflix. I feel like it was kind of the cover. I mean, we've talked about, like, I love great covers and posters, and I remember seeing it, and it kind of had my aesthetic because it had, that, as I always talk about, my Mark Renf look, like the neon, and then I knew it was it was an Adam Wingard, and I knew he did Your Next and Pop Skull, and I was just kind of, I think we just kind of watched it on, like, we need something to watch, like, let's try this out. And then Xylia picked it, and
here we
are. What do you say we get to the trailer and the bio, and then we can get in, because I know I definitely have a pressing question to bring up the minute we get into this. So, let's get in the trailer, and we'll come right back.
Can I help you?
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes?
My name is David. Mrs. Peterson, I knew your son, Caleb. I was with him when he died. That's me.
You knew Caleb?
Yes, ma'am. We were pretty close.
Yes, ma'am.
He wanted me to tell you that he loved you. Thanks. He asked me to check on y'all. And so, we're gonna be good friends.
What happened?
I got into a fight with some guys at school.
I'll teach him some self-defense when he's feeling up to it.
What are you gonna do?
Nothing bad. For the damages. Never let anyone pick on you. Here, you keep it. Miss Peterson, are you sure you're comfortable with me staying here?
I think it could be a good thing for us.
I promised Caleb I would do anything I could to help your family. But I'm afraid I haven't been fully honest with you.
I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been here.
Really, Mrs. Peterson, it's no problem.
All right, so the IMDb bio for the guest is: a soldier introduces himself to the Peterson family, claiming to be a friend of their son who died in action. After the young man is welcomed into their home, a series of accidental deaths seems to be connected to his presence.
I mean, they weren't really accidental, but he killed them. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. If you've gotten this far into, like, the hour into this episode.
Yeah, this isn't just about an innocent guest that shows up.
No.
So, as we said before, you know, we like to bring up, it's not a huge who's who cast, but the movie is directed by Adam Wingard, and if you are a horror fiend, a horror hound, I mean, his name is kind of synonymous, I think, with new big directors. I mean, what would you say? Like, I would say Your Next is probably what he's most well known for.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Other things he's done is Pop Skull, which was actually the first thing I'd ever seen. I really love that movie. I highly suggest, if you haven't seen it, to go see it. It's considered one of the first mumblecore horror films, and I feel like it's a good time with what we were talking about Xylia's aesthetic, because Xylia loves this mumblecore genre.
And I never even knew that was a thing until we did Lace Clip Crater, but it is true. I really like stuff like that.
And then you read about it and you're like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
And it does have that connection. It was written by Simon Barrett, and Simon Barrett wrote Lace Crater. I think, is that how it goes? I'm like doing this on the fly. Sorry, no, he didn't. He wrote Your Next with Adam Wingard. He also wrote VHS and VHS 2, and like he's done a bunch of, like, he did stuff for the ABCs of Death. He co-wrote the Blair Witch remake, which Adam Wingard directed. I haven't seen that yet.
Neither.
But they are all friends, if you go back to the Lace Crater episode, with the guy that directed and was in Lace Crater. He's also an actor in Your Next. These guys are all connected. They're all friends.
It's a movement.
It's a movement. I think the only other notable things from Wingard, I mean, there's lots of notable things, but he did the Death Note movie on Netflix from the manga book. He directed 3 episodes of Outcast for AMC, which I haven't finished that show, but I highly suggest. Like, what I've seen of it, I really like it. Same guy wrote that comic that did The Walking Dead, Kirkman, but it's like demon possession. It's amazing. And kind of the blockbuster thing is the newest, the Godzilla vs. Kong movie that's coming out is actually going to be directed by Adam Wingard, which I think is very interesting as a side tangent, that these newer Godzilla films have been really tapping the horror community. Obviously, like I said, Adam Wingard is like a huge, horror director right now, and the one that just came out is directed by, what's his name? Michael Dowtree, I think is his name. It's the guy that directed Trick or Treat. Okay. He was the one that directed the newest one that came out last year.
Oh.
So interesting, they're just tapping like these kind of like really good horror directors to direct these Godzilla films. In the cast, I figure there's only really 2 to mention. The guest, our main character, is played by Dan Stevens. I was not familiar with Dan Stevens. Were you, Mike, or any of you?
Nope.
No, I know I've seen him in things, but it's nothing that jumps out at me, which could be because I haven't seen much that he's actually in, or it could be because he's a dude and I don't give a shit about most male actors.
Apparently he's in like Downton Abbey or something.
Oh yes, because he is British, isn't he?
I guess. I don't know.
I think he is.
I would assume he is. But so he plays David in this movie. But yeah, his claim to fame is he's from Downton Abbey, which I've never seen. This makes me love Adam Wingard even more. I love horror directors that just pick people from things so removed from horror or anything that has to do with this kind of movie. Like, you wouldn't think a guy from Downtown Abbey's like...
Downtown Abbey. Here we go. This is it. Like, this is what I've been waiting all episode for. Downtown Abbey.
I was literally gonna, like, insert the fact that last night he was like, oh, this guy's from Downtown Abbey. I was like, you mean Downton Abbey?
I feel like that would be like, that'd be like an American remake of that. Like Downtown Abbey.
Oh.
It sounds like it'd be a book about a sex worker or something. Downtown Abbey.
Downtown Alley.
Anyway, I love when movies do that. I love when you take someone that, like, you know, most people that like this guy are, I'm sure he's like the romantic interest or something in that series.
Probably.
And, you know, it's like, oh, I love that guy. We should watch this movie. And then, you know, he's like slitting throats. And
I can kind of like envision him. I've never seen Downton Abbey, but I can kind of envision him in like the old outfits and stuff like that, being like all
yes, with his hair slicked back and
yeah.
So the other two things I thought were interesting to mention is he's the lead actor in the Legion TV show. I have not watched that yet.
Yeah, that's been on my list forever, too.
And everyone I know is like, you and Xylia would love this. It's, like, super trippy. It's, like, this amazing, like, you know, amazing soundtrack.
It's X-Men tangential.
Yeah, New Mutants connection. And he also played the Beast in The Prince in the Beauty and the Beast live action.
Oh, with Emma Watson?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
You know, I guess he went on to get that Disney money, so good for him. And then, of course, the other notable actress, and, you know, this is the one Mike really cares about, because we don't have time for those men.
No, we don't. Fuck men.
See, this is what happens.
Micah.
You guys get me in my head, and then I'm like, I don't want to say her name. Micah Monroe. Although, when I looked her up, I didn't realize that wasn't her actual name. Her last name's like Buckley or something.
Oh, this is a stage
That's like her stage name. But yes, Micah Monroe. She's obviously one of, you know.
Okay, that's another reason I picked this movie.
Obviously. Everyone knows how much we love It Follows. Like,
I mean, first episode, like.
Yeah.
We're obsessed.
We're obsessed. You know, she murdered it in It Follows. She was in Independence Day 2, which I haven't seen. And then I thought it was interesting because I have seen this, but she played a very minor character. She was in The Bling Ring, apparently.
Oh, I didn't even know.
I didn't know that. She apparently she just plays like a random character.
I think horror is such like a good home for her.
She's definitely, I did enjoy, like, when you look up her Wikipedia profile, like, it says she's, like, it says somewhere in there, like, she's basically, like, top of the new class of Scream Queens.
Definitely.
And I think that title is, you know, well deserved.
There's also the guy from John Dies at the End.
Yes.
Plays the boyfriend.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, though. I didn't look it up. I'm sorry, people.
I don't remember his name, but I think his name is Dave in the movie.
I don't think that it is. I think it's something else. Although I could be wrong.
No, well, yeah, David is the main guy.
No, I'm saying in John Dies at the End.
Okay.
Mixing up our movies here.
I don't remember his name was like Craig. Craig was a friend. I can't remember this guy's name in this movie, but yeah,
Zeke.
Yeah, Zeke.
Yeah, Zeke.
Yeah, in John Dies at the End, his name was Dave, though. Zeke, yeah.
And I guess, too, it'd be worth mentioning, like, Brendan Mayers plays the brother in this. He's one of the stars in the OA Netflix television show. And he's also in Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage. We haven't seen that yet, but he is in that as well.
And also just honorable mention, because you know me, I love my random actresses. The mom is played by Sheila Kelly, who was my favorite character in the classic 90s grunge movie Singles.
Oh, I did not recognize her.
Yeah, When I saw her name, I was like, oh my god, that's the only character that I cared about. No, that's not true. Singles is such a lovely movie full of wonderful characters. But for some weird reason, I guess because I'm the way that I am, I latched onto her fucking, like, nut job character, and she became my favorite. But yeah, so that was a nice kind of random connection.
I just quickly looked her up. Apparently, yeah, she doesn't really do a lot of movies.
No.
Apparently, she was in 8 episodes of Gossip Girl.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And apparently, she's on many episodes of a show called The Good Doctor, which I've seen, like,
oh,
the
that's
trailers.
the Willy Wonka guy.
Yeah, I think of him as the Norman Bates guy. That's fine. Whatever. Picking nits with that. So, the first pressing question I had, before we get into the normal questions, is we watched this. I looked at Xylia, and I said, is this a horror movie?
So, the first time I watched it, I definitely thought it was, like, more horror. And this time I definitely thought it was more, like, action. So I looked it up, and it's an action horror. It's definitely action.
Well, that solves that dilemma, doesn't it?
It's action horror. And I think we're talking about different movie personalities. I think it's kind of been established that my personality on this podcast is to, like, literally just make my own rules. So, yeah.
So get ready for the next episode. We'll be reviewing the horror movie Batman and Robin.
Oh my god, I would kill to review that movie. If nothing else, just to talk about all the queens in it and, like, the weird nipples on the outside of the...
That'll be us, Sidecast 25, the Batman and Robin podcast.
It's basically considered a thriller action horror movie.
So I definitely, I felt this, if this is a horror movie, this is like the furthest removed from a horror movie possible. But I'll give it a pass.
It is kind of like a slasher.
I'll give it a pass, because there's some good kills, and...
What is a horror movie?
Oh, we're getting real technical.
We can't all fit them all into this really simple box.
You know what? I think it gets a pass on this podcast.
And it's on Halloween night.
It's Adam Wingard. We love Adam Wingard. He gets a pass.
It's on Halloween night, too. It does have aspects of, like, slasher towards the, like, end.
Yes, I mean, there are lots of stabbings.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is true. How about you, Mike? What's your feelings on this movie being a horror movie?
There are shades of it. And it's got pedigree. But I think other than the shades and pedigree, it's, you know, more of an action thriller. And I'm fine with that. I love action thrillers. Like,
I mean, the only shades I'm seeing is the shade that you're throwing subliminally to Xylia here.
I can't help it. It's a cold place underneath me. It's a cold, dark place. But it's not shade. I think that it has elements. But again, like, what the fuck is genre, right? Like, it's...
Exactly.
Is it something that we put on it? Is it marketing? Is it an aesthetic? Is it a mood? Is it certain screenplay beats? Like, what is it really? Like, it's...
And to me, this is like when... I remember when I first saw it, it's like... This screams, like, this is, like, the definition of, like, a genre film. Like, I think... This is what I think of. Like, it knows its audience, and it's us, I feel. It has the right aesthetics. So, let's get into our favorite scenes, our favorite moments. We know how this game goes. Mike, how about you? This was your first time viewing?
It was, yes. It's not as much a favorite scene as a favorite collection of scenes, and it's kind of like a chunk in, like, the first third. Essentially, when he starts ingratiating himself with Micah Monroe's character and the family in general. But her in particular, I'm having a moment of brain fart where I forget her character's name. But, you know, like when they go to the party together and she's like driving with them and making a mixtape because there was something about the aesthetic of it and it was all at night. And that was
her name is Anna.
Anna, yes.
I didn't even know that.
And Anna Peterson. See, I remember that. It's also when the first kind of moment in the movie when songs become more prominent and like kind of woven into the fabric of the story.
Yeah.
You know, like that, and it's sort of the fact that they pay very close attention to music and they talk about it and that it's very, very prominently used to like create tone and mood is kind of what I loved about that whole section, because there's a lot of the rest of the movie that I didn't really care for, sorry. But that whole, there was such
That's why we're reviewing it.
There was, it was a really nice mesh mesh of like music and mood, and I don't know, that was the height of the screenplay for me.
Obviously, I really enjoyed the ending of it. Like, I love that at the school dance and the scenes and like the fog machine, the smoke machine, how it was lit. You win me over with like neon colors. I'm pretty easy that way. But I just love Wingard, and I think it's a reason that I feel that we all, kind of love this, like, mumblecore genre, is I love just the aesthetic of them, that, like, they're not overly complicated sets. They're grounded real-life sets. Like, the house looks like someone's house you would go into. To me, this film could have costed $20 million. This film could have costed $500,000. Like, to me, the budget is never like that apparent in them, and they just have like this down to earth quality to them that I love. And I loved some of the action scenes. I thought they were like pretty cool. It kind of broke up the film, where you're really getting to like where I thought it's really horror is kind of where Mike talked about in the kind of the first half of the film, where he's like ingraining himself into this family without them knowing it. And like, that's scary when you think like this guy's like totally has a spell over the mother and is just inserting him into their lives. You kind of break that for a second, and then we get like, I'm watching Rambo or something, but then it immediately falls back into this psychological, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a cat and mouse game with the genre of an action movie. Because they don't necessarily want to go full into action, but they want to play around with it. What about you, Xylia?
I think I have two favorite scenes. One is when she's in a room burning the CD for him. Mostly because, like, burning CDs was such, like, a fond time in my teenage years. I love that. I don't know, it's just so, I'm like such a sucker for nostalgia. And then my other favorite scene, which is actually like probably the thing that I remembered the most from the first time I watched it, was that final scene when they're like in the funhouse maze type thing, and they have that like Oh Antonio song going on, and it's like neon lights. I know, I'm a sucker for neon lights too. So
I was actually gonna say one of my favorite things of that movie was the remix of Annie's Antonio single, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
We love our music. We love our throbbing synth pop, and
the music's good in this.
I was gonna say, we might as well talk about it now. Like, soundtrack. Like, to me, this
best part of the movie.
This is how you put a movie soundtrack together. Like,
it is. What a genius meshing of like kind of really synth driven, like up tempo electronic tracks, and then like all this, like, cool, moody, like, goth music, too. Like, it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I know Xylia loves the Antonio.
No,
is it not is it Antonio or Antonio?
It's Antonio, but there's an H in it. See, here we go. 3 times so far.
I love that song, Antonio.
Hopefully I never name my kid
Oh my god, Antonio.
Hopefully I never name a kid Antonio.
Oh, Antonio. Oh my god.
I hate everybody. No, but anyway, I know Xylia really likes that song. Mike said that. To me, the Love and Rocket song is like my all-time favorite song. The soundtrack.
What one's that one? Sing that.
Sing that. Yeah, let me just break out in the song. It's the Haunted When the Minutes Drag is what the song is called. I love that. It's like the super gothy song in it.
I'll have to look it up.
And also...
Go ahead.
There is 2 Survive songs on here.
Oh, we love Survive.
Yeah, and I mean, if anyone who's like, who the hell Survive? If you like Stranger Things, you like Survive, because they do the entire soundtrack.
I also Shazammed a song called Sahara by Fool or Fool.
Yes. and that's actually listed. I saw that song's not on the official soundtrack, but it is a song on there.
It's a song in the movie.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, the official soundtrack cuts out several songs, actually.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list, and there's 2, 4, 6, 7 songs.
Yeah, like there's some Perturbator music in there that wasn't on the official soundtrack that I noticed.
Why do they do that?
I think it's like a rights thing, because they probably, if it has an actual, like this had an actual soundtrack, so like it's just they have to have the rights to sell it.
Yeah, and even then, and when you think about it, I mean, even though, well, this movie's like 6 years old now, even then, and even now, I guess, like a lot of times when you're selecting what is going to get officially released, the big thing is like legal rights and stuff, but also they were probably trying to fit it on a CD or vinyl. Right?
Yeah.
You can't fit all the tracks on, like, say, a vinyl, like if you're doing a vinyl of it, so they've got to pick, like, whatever it is, like 75 minutes or 80 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, soundtrack period. Like, what a amazing soundtrack. I know I would buy this on vinyl. I think it is on vinyl. I think I've seen it, like, on the internet, but if I saw it in person, I would definitely, like, I'd pay $50 for this. Like, I love the soundtrack. I did want to say for kind of favorite scene also is I love the editing of it when she has stolen the phone from him and then hears him coming and she throws it in the room and they're doing the thing where he's standing in his room and she's standing in her room, and then like we're showing both of them like the reactions of, you know, listening for each other. I love the way that's shot. God bless you, Adam Wingard. I love the way you do it. And I thought the kills were pretty good in this too. You guys know I'm gonna talk about the kills. Like, I thought they were pretty good, like especially in the funhouse part. Like, I felt that is when we got the horror vibe to this.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, the end of the movie is more horror.
Yeah, very like slasher.
Is he really dead?
Really enjoyed it. And I thought and they did a pretty good job, because you'd almost think with this that they would almost drag that end scene out a bit. I know when I first saw it, I liked how like tight it was. Like, we didn't really, like...
I definitely wouldn't have wanted it dragged out.
Yeah, like, I just like, because at first, when I had first seen it, I thought the military guy, I'm like, this guy's gonna be around forever, and he's either gonna, like, he'll probably live, but I like, we pretty much just get rid of him once we're there, and I'm like, cool. And yeah, I just thought it was, like, really effective, just with the kills, and like I said, I didn't even mind the action. I thought the action was pretty well done, and it wasn't long. Like,
it was an hour and a half.
Yeah, the movie is pretty tight, pretty short. I did read that they cut over 20 minutes of the movie because it didn't test very well. Because apparently in the original cut, they like fully explain David and like why he is the way he is.
Okay, well, I kind of wish that they had done that though, because I feel like like the bare minimum about his background.
Yeah, one of my problems was that they kind of set up as if there was going to be a payoff, and then I didn't think there was. Obviously, narratively there wasn't. So.
See, and I feel like I'm going in the opposite direction. I almost didn't like how much they gave us. I would have been fine. I would have been fine with her calling, and then, you know, they do the thing like he's not who he says he is.
But who is he, and how does he know her brother?
Well, but they say.
And why does he pick that family?
They said in the film the brother was also part of that experiment.
But why does he pick that family?
But see, I almost would have preferred not to know. I would have liked to known, like, okay, he has something to do with the military, he has these dog tags, but to me, I was like, I would have been perfectly fine with not having to see anything of, like, the military, and I don't want to say military, because they look like they were, like, a private contractor for the government. But, like, I didn't need to see any of their office building and them freaking out. To me, you could have left it at
that actually
more.
Did break the tension of the movie, I found.
Yeah, it's just, like, the whole thing, like, it kind of took me out of it. And to me, like we always talk about, it would almost be, I found, more effective if I didn't know that much about him, even the little we got. Because then he's just kind of like this, I don't know why he's killing these people. I don't know why he picked these family, and then at the end of the movie, I still don't know why.
I mean, I still don't know why I picked that family.
Even the connections they made with the brother, like, I didn't really care. I thought it was just creepy on the merits of this random guy showed up at the house and was like, oh yeah, I know this guy. Like, that would have been fine for me, and me be like, obviously this guy is fucking crazy. I do want to talk about, you know, we said that Dan Stevens was in it. I thought he killed this film. Like, he was so good in this. I think he should do more Adam Wingard films. Like, I thought David was, like, very compelling. He did a cool job of kind of creating this, like, psychopathic killer, but it wasn't necessarily anything I've seen before. Like, he didn't do it in a typical way, but he did a good job of seeming normal, but he would have these, like, little quirks and these little looks where, like, you know something's off. And also, I really enjoyed when he just beat up all those kids in a bar.
I really like when he goes into the principal's office and was like, this is gonna happen. It's like, A, why the hell are you there? B, like, yeah, that just shows how much you, like, infiltrate their family in a day.
And the mom is just like, I'm just gonna sit here and roll with this.
And I mean, let's be realistic here. That mom definitely won the bank.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like she hadn't had a hard dick in years.
I was going to say that's the hot take of the podcast, but I think that's the hard take.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
I had to do it. Oh, yeah, 100. And I didn't get that on my first watch, but this watch, I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, it's there. Like, there's definitely some, like, sexual tension going on here. And especially, like, on the second watch, like, I kind of got more of a feel, like, because the dad kind of, like, he's just kind of, like, checked out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he comes
Mentally.
home, he's drinking, he's, like, watching TV, and that's it.
Yeah.
I do want to give a huge shout out. I didn't write down his name or anything, but the guy that played the dad, fantastic job at being a number one dad. Like, he was the most daddiest dad.
The daddiest
dad I've seen. The glasses. You know who he kind of reminded me of? I'd like to go back a couple episodes to Vacancy.
I was just going to say, he's like the guy who has the motel.
The guy that works in the motel. He totally reminded me of that guy. I think it was the glasses.
He was kind of
Vacancy and The Guest. The crossover we didn't know we wanted.
Yeah.
So, let's get into, is it scary?
No. It's not.
Xylia volunteered to go first, and that is a big no.
It's solid, it's definitive, period. Period.
How about you, Mike? What do you think?
No. I can kind of see how, like I said, that there were the shades of horror in the, like, infiltration, but it's more of, like, they were trying to get their scares out of, like, the bits that were more like psychological thrillers, which is, like, the more domestic scenes and stuff like that. But no, and I mean, the bursts of violence were, while very well done, they were a bit too, like, choreographed. So to me, again, that's what made it more of, like, a high-octane action thing. It was like something out of a Bourne movie instead of, Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It just... Xylia broke the rules and picked a non-horror movie, essentially.
It's a thriller action horror.
We're only giving you a hard time.
I looked online.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. It wasn't scary. Not to say that I didn't enjoy watching it. Like, the soundtrack alone makes it worth it.
Save it for the real review.
Oh, geez. You mean the rating?
The rating.
Xylia keeps raving about us reviewing this film that we've already reviewed. But before we get into the rating, there is something I want to bring up. Fuck that brother. That brother is a piece of shit.
The worst. He loved it because that guy gave him attention.
Oh yeah, he totally had a crush on him.
Yeah, so obviously there's lots of people in this family that have sexual tension going on.
Literally every one of them.
Yeah,
I mean, he's pretty attractive.
Maybe the dad's throwing some vibes out there too.
Yeah, he always wants to have a drink.
You did describe him as daddy.
Daddy, the daddiest dad. Alright, I know everyone's probably like, wow, you guys talked about this movie for 20 minutes. But we don't want to make you listen to us for like 8 hours. Like we said, Xylia just picked a movie that wasn't really a horror movie. Except listed on a website that she hasn't actually shown us.
There's several websites that confirm that it's a thriller action horror.
Good to make us watch it either way. Yes. So let's get into the rating.
Outside the box.
Thinking outside the box. Rating. Let's go to you, Xylia. This was your pick.
Okay, I'm gonna rate it an okay.
Oh.
I don't know what the hell I was thinking when I first saw it. I really liked it the first time I saw it. And then this time, I definitely didn't like it on that level. I think if the music wasn't in it, it wasn't like that music, and Micah Monroe wasn't in it, I don't think I would like this movie at all.
Interesting. I'm very shocked. I thought this was going to be a lot higher for you. And like I said, I thought that because when we first watched, I remember you being I love this movie.
I really liked it a lot. Like, I really, really did.
It was probably the marijuana.
I don't do that.
How about you, Mike? This was your first viewing.
As I said, I had been wanting to see it for years. It just slipped off my radar. I will say, like, I'm not going to say nay, but it would be like a yay minus.
What about an okay?
An okay. It's an okay, honestly. Because you actually took the words out of my mouth. If it didn't have that throbbing, atmospheric, gorgeously curated soundtrack, and Micah Monroe, there would have been nothing keeping me interested in it at all. I would have, I went to see it because essentially of the director and the pedigree, but I didn't really find it that interesting. And it wasn't because it wasn't, like strictly a horror movie or anything like that. Like, I love a good, solid, action thriller. Technically, there was lots well done about it. The kills and the action scenes were really well cut and quick and brutal, but there was just nothing for me to hook onto. Most of the characters I just sort of only vaguely cared about. It wasn't as atmospheric as I wanted it to be. And frankly, when I keep thinking about, You're Next, that to me is I can watch it over and over because all of the characters in it, the dialogue and everything is so snappy. The characters are, even the ones that are really fucking annoying and sadistic, you weirdly root for, even the villains. But in this, I found he wasn't written, he had his charisma and charm a little bit, but it was just, the writing was not as sharp and snappy as I thought it was going to be. So I was honestly very disappointed, and I really don't think I'm going to watch it again. I have the soundtrack now. I'll just stream it on Spotify, and that's as far as I'll go.
So 2 okays.
I'm not, there's nothing about it that makes me want to watch it again, other than the soundtrack, and I can just put that on my speaker and listen to it while I'm doing other things.
I feel like the only way I'll probably rewatch it is if it's in I'm doing something that's on in the background.
Yes, but you're not going to sit down and dedicate, an hour and 40 minutes or whatever of your time to just that.
No.
Exactly. Period.
Period. Now it's down to me. I will give it a yay. I think after you guys talked, I obviously, even on the second viewing, I think liked it a little more than you guys did. I don't disagree with anything you say. I think it's not a long film. It's kind of a very bare bones film.
Which to me is the only thing that really saved it.
Yeah, if it was any longer, I don't think it would have been effective. There is definitely things that, I think they could have done a lot more. They could have really took this in a more horror place, and I think it would have been really cool. The soundtrack is great. I mean, I would watch this again. I do enjoy it. I think that's just my own personal taste on it, but by no means is it a slay movie. I think it's a yay. I would suggest for people to watch it at least once. And if anything, like Mike said, simply so you watch it and you're oh, now I'm going to download the soundtrack on Spotify or Apple or whatever. Yeah, it's even worth the watch for that. So 2 okays and a yay. I think that's pretty reasonable for this.
Yeah.
Maybe even most would think high. Maybe a little too high for it. But that's for others to decide. Let's get into the budget game. I still need a theme song for the budget game. What do you think this movie cost to make?
$8 million.
I think about 12.
Well,
again, where did the budget go? I feel like he skilled, even though I didn't really love it, but he is a skilled director, and I feel like he had a lowish budget and made it look better than somebody else would have been able to with the money he had.
So Xylia is gonna take it.
Of course she will.
Surprise, surprise. It cost $5 million to make.
Oh my god.
So it's definitely a lower budget. I mean, I would also expect, because 2014, Downton Abbey was... It was pretty big by then. So I would suspect he is like a headliner, I believe, on that show. So I would think he probably cost a little bit of money.
Is it really the same demographic of viewer, though?
Well, and now that you say that, maybe he didn't cost a lot, because maybe this was, one of his first forays into, like, film.
First foray into foray?
That's what I just said.
You said foyer.
Foyer, like in a house.
Your first.
There's definitely going to be a side... There's definitely going to be a side cast on just me.
It's just going to be clips of you saying...
Clips of me saying things wrong. I hate all of you. What do you think it made? Mike, you go.
$40 million?
40 mil.
I was literally going to say 4 million.
Oh my god.
So your answer is 4?
Yeah.
So Xylia will take it. It made $2.4 million.
Oh my god.
He did not make the budget back on this.
That's unfortunate.
I would highly suspect this was probably a limited release as well.
More than likely, yeah.
I see this movie come up on lists. I do see people talk about this. I feel like this movie is going to and has more of a life on kind of the Blu-ray streaming market. I'm sure it's kind of made its money back in streams. Like, I always hear other podcasts or see lists that say, like, oh, like, check out this film. And as what Adam Wingard does bigger and bigger films, like, people are going to try to visit his older stuff. But yeah, it did not make the money back.
We hate to see it.
I have, sorry to like cut into this weird spot, but I have one question. My question for the year episode. I'm like an hour and a half late on this one. But if there was one movie that you guys could review on this podcast, but it's not a horror, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. I actually like that, we have a couple of these at towards the end as well. We're still celebrating we're straight edge. We're not drinking or anything. We're kind of like Miss Monroe. Because fun fact, she's straight edge.
Interesting.
She has one of those straight edge tattoos.
Interesting.
Divorce. I'm kidding.
So, one film to review.
That's not a horror.
That's not a horror.
Easy. Clue.
Clue.
I want 3 of us to get drunk and talk about Clue because it's one of the best movies that has ever existed, and I think Xylia will either love it or fucking hate it. So
I think I might have seen it on TV when I was growing up.
It's one of those that did come on TV at night a lot. I think that's how I first saw it.
If it is the one, I love that movie. Okay.
I mean,
wait, do they all get invited to a mansion?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And
it's all sorts of like comedy legends,
Clue?
And it takes place in like the 50s. Yeah.
Yes, I love that movie.
This is a hard question. Oh, I'm gonna do an Xylia cheat because I have 2 that are a tie. I would probably pick either Can't Hardly Wait.
Oh, and Ethan Embry was in this movie, which we neglected.
Oh my god!
Oh, yeah,
yeah. So
we
like
neglected
5
that
seconds.
Cameo.
Hopefully, you're still listening when you've been tuned in the whole time. Yes, that needs our full most attention. Briefly, that Ethan Embry was in this. I didn't really recognize that. I think the first time I watched it, but when we watched it this time, I'm like, holy shit, it's Ethan Embry, and he is a gun dealer, and it's amazing. Sorry. Back to the question. Probably it'd be a tie between Can't Hardly Wait and in the theme of amazing soundtracks in neon colors, Drive. It would be 100. Yes. Drive would probably 100% be it. That's my life of my love of film in one movie. Mainly just Ryan Gosling. But
okay, that's funny because I have 2 as well, and one features Ryan Gosling. Okay, so the first for me would be Enter the Void, and everybody would have to be prepared to be incredibly depressed.
And we'd all have to do DMT.
Yeah, you'd all have to do DMT beforehand to like really enjoy the psychedelic colors. Disclaimer, I've never done DMT, so don't worry about it. And then the other one would be A Place Beyond the Pines.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
That's a great
You
movie.
do love
Ryan
that
Gosling.
movie.
I literally like never watch a movie over and over and over again. I think I watched that like 3 times in one day once.
Definitely a new sidecast will be a Ryan Gosling sidecast.
Ryan Gosling appreciation.
I think it will be just titled Ryan Gosling Sexual Tension. Just because we love Ryan Gosling that much.
Okay.
There's no tension. It's just a fact.
Sexual.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. And you know what? Before we kind of sign off, I do have another 1-year anniversary question. And I want to know, out of all the films we reviewed, what one would you most like to like go back and redo? Maybe you weren't happy with the conversations we had about it, or maybe you rated it higher or lower than thinking about it that, you know, you would have changed your rating on and you regret now.
I think our format has changed so much since the beginning of the start.
Yeah. Well, and that could be an answer too, is there something when, you know, we started that a movie you'd like to revisit with kind of our finalized format?
I think that there's like 2 movies I'd probably think that I would have liked to revisit or like to have done differently would be Evil Dead and My Bloody Valentine, because I think like My Bloody Valentine, I haven't seen it since, but it's like really grown on me a lot. And I think that I didn't fully like appreciate it when I watched it.
Well, that's
I
growth.
don't remember.
That's growth.
Yeah, like I don't remember what I rated it. It was probably like not great.
No.
I really don't remember, but like I actually really like that movie.
I also hope when people listen to our podcast that they don't ever take life advice from us, because, you know, our idea of personal growth is like, yeah, you're really starting to like My Bloody Valentine now. Like,
Baby
you really got
steps, my friend.
You really have your
steps.
life together.
We're gurus.
How about you, Mike?
I don't know. I feel like I was a bit checked out for Hocus Pocus, so I feel like I maybe gave it short shrift, but that's probably the only one that I wasn't super satisfied with for a number of reasons. But I feel like, again, like X said, you know, we've shifted a bit, and I like all of the discussions that we've had about these movies.
Thanks for praising us.
We're icons, what can I say?
Mine, definitely, I do, because it's growing more and more on me. Mine would definitely probably be Mandy. That was a hot take.
Remember when he didn't give it a fucking slay?
I know.
And I was
You were very disappointed. It was immediate divorce.
I was trying to take Xylia's advice and, you know, be a little pickier and not give everything.
Mandy was fucking one of the best movies.
And, like, I continuously find myself dazed sometimes, like, thinking about that movie.
He'll Go to the Grave. That's, like, his deepest regret, is rating it a yay.
That's probably my deepest regret. And I feel like that's it. Obviously, some I'd love to revisit with our kind of newer, more formalized format. But I've enjoyed all our conversations that we've had throughout our year doing this. So I think it is time to announce our next film. And it is Mike's turn to pick.
It is. We all love a good Mike pick. I know it. Don't argue with me, motherfuckers. Anybody? So my pick is a slightly offbeat, kind of obscure film. It's from 1981, and it's called Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, but it's also sometimes released as Night Warning.
Okay.
And
I am not familiar with this, but that name has sold me.
It's one of those ones that gets tossed around a lot in discussions of like cult movies and like stuff that you wish would get like a really good cleanup and re-release with like extra features on it and stuff. And that's kind of how I became aware of it. It was not something that I still haven't seen it, so I will admit that up front. So I really am looking forward to watching this movie, and it's supposed to be a bit bonkers. So I do love a bonkers, obscure.
I was like, when is a Mike pick not bonkers?
When is a Mike pick not bonkers? Exactly. It's the question of my life. But that's it, and I think that we'll enjoy talking about it. by the sounds of it.
All right. Well, before we let you go, I figure we should, we've kind of got out of plugging anything, but it's a new year. If you haven't already, go to patreon.com/itslays podcast. We have a bunch of different tiers up. If you hit the $5 tier, like Ashton has and Colton, you get to pick a film that we review. And so if you want to make us watch something that you like or don't like, and you just want to ruin our nights by making us watch something terrible, if you subscribe at the $5 entry, you can make that happen.
Also, we have a playlist, an ever-evolving playlist on Spotify that I haven't added anything to in a very long time. But right now, as we speak, I will be adding some songs from the guests, such as hit single Oh Antonio.
If you enjoy Oh Antonio,
pop over to It Slays Podcast Horrific Playlist.
Yes, and subscribe to that. I did want to thank everyone that has been rating us on iTunes. I saw we got 1 or 2, I think, since the last time I brought it up. We're still sitting at a 5 out of 5 star. So, feel free. We love you forever. When you rate us on Apple Podcasts, we're easier to find when people are looking for horror podcasts. And feel free to write a text review, because we'll read it and tell people about it. I think that's everything for this evening. We will definitely be back with Mike's insane pick, because I already know it's going to be insane. Thank you for being with us, listening to us. Our plays are growing. More and more people are discovering the podcast. And we appreciate everyone that stuck around for a year. And hopefully we have many more years, many more guests, many more fun interactions with you guys on our social media and everything else. Thank you deeply from my heart. And that is everything. I am your humble host, Rowan.
Ditto. It's Xylia.
Thanks, it's Mike.
See you next time.
Thank you.